800 drones, one night, a single target above all others. 25 miles from the Kremlin, Wildberries torched again. 7 of Russia's 10 biggest warehouses already hit. Ukraine isn't just striking Putin's military anymore. It's dismantling his economy, delivery by delivery. But how long before Moscow feels the brunt on every shelf? Russia says it faced one of the largest Ukrainian drone barrages of the war overnight, claiming its forces shot down more than 800 drones across the country. According to reports, a massive Ukrainian drone attack has set fire to a major logistics hub operated by Wildberries, often described as Russia's equivalent of Amazon, just 25 miles south of the Kremlin. Region's Governor Andrei Vorobyov described it as one of the most massive drone attacks in recent times, as the Russia-Ukraine war continues to rage. Videos circulating on social media show huge plumes of smoke rising from the Wildberries warehouse in the Moscow region. The two sides have escalated their air war on one another, with Ukraine increasingly firing barrages of drones at targets deep inside Russia, including warehouses and industrial plants as well as refineries. Ukraine's general staff reported its strikes on Rostov Oblast targeted Kombinat Kamensky, a state-owned enterprise that produces solid rocket fuel for the Uragan, Smersh, and Tornado-S multiple-launch rocket systems. Meanwhile, Russia's state-run TASS News reported it was the largest Ukrainian drone attack since the beginning of the year, with many of the drones targeting the Moscow area, where many of Russia's elite reside. At the same time, Russia's defense ministry confirmed that Russian air defenses intercepted 822 Ukrainian drones overnight across several regions. The reported figure would rank among the largest Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian territory to date. According to Moscow's governor, Andrei Vorobyov, air defense forces and electronic warfare units shot down and neutralized 187 drones over the Moscow region.
Overnight, air defense forces and electronic warfare assets shot down and suppressed 187 UAVs in Domodedovo, Podolsk, Stupino, Odintsovo, Narofominsk, Ramenskoye, Chekhov, Kolomna, Kashira, and Yegorevsk. Unfortunately, there were casualties.
The governor further confirmed that a UAV strike caused a fire at a Wildberries warehouse in the Koledino Industrial Park.
A UAV hit caused a fire at a Wildberries warehouse in the Koledino Industrial Park. Employees were evacuated to shelters at the time of the attack. None were injured. In Domodedovo, a fire broke out at a warehouse containing medicines.
Wildberries warehouses have been repeatedly targeted by Ukrainian drones in recent months. Ukraine says it has struck 7 out of Wildberries' 10 largest logistics centers. Ukraine regularly strikes military infrastructure deep within Russia and the occupied territories in an effort to diminish Moscow's ability to continue waging its war. Earlier on August 15th, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian forces struck Russia's Savazleyka military airbase and a key Roscosmos facility in Samara Oblast using domestically produced Flamingo missiles. In Voronezh Oblast, a Wildberries logistics hub in the Russian village of Novaya Usman was engulfed in flames on August 11th following a series of explosions at the site amid Ukrainian strikes. The attack was later confirmed by Robert Brovdy, commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces. The Wildberries online shopping behemoth, the largest in Russia, is partly owned by senior officials in Putin's Kremlin power structure. Yet, Moscow's air defenses have failed to protect it. After dozens of recent attacks on Wildberries, which supplies Putin's military machine, the impact is being felt in the Russian economy, with the latest catastrophic blaze set to impact the capital city's supply chain. The war has reached one of the most unexpected targets inside Russia. Not an airbase, not an oil refinery, not military headquarters. This time, Ukraine has gone after Russia's biggest online retailer, Wildberries, setting some of its largest warehouse complexes ablaze in a series of long-range drone strikes. The attacks have triggered billions of dollars in damage, left thousands of businesses in crisis, and opened a new front in Kyiv's campaign to weaken the Russian economy. Over the past several days, Ukrainian drones struck major Wildberries logistics centers in Krasnodar and Stavropol Krai. This was not a one-off strike. Ukraine first struck Wildberries on July 18th, hitting the company's major logistics hubs in Elektrostal near Moscow and Kotovsk in the Tambov region. 4 days later, on July 22nd, it launched a second wave of attacks, targeting 2 more distribution centers in Krasnodar and Nevenomysk in Stavropol Krai. In less than a week, 4 of Wildberries' biggest logistics hubs had come under Ukrainian attack. According to various estimates, the combined damage now stands between 150 and 230 billion rubles, with tens of billions more needed to clear the wreckage and rebuild the facilities. Speaking about the attacks on the warehouses, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Kyiv had struck 2 logistics facilities used by Russia to supply components for drone production and navigation equipment.
Today, targets were hit near Moscow as well as in the Tambov region. These were Russian logistics facilities, including warehouses supplying equipment for the war effort, navigation systems, components used in drone production, and other supplies for the Russian military.
However, the Kremlin rejected the claims and denied accusations from Ukraine that Wildberries handles military supplies used for Russia's war effort.
It is not true. The Kyiv regime continues to strike civilian targets. That is the terrorist nature of the Kyiv regime. As for the company you mentioned, the situation is indeed difficult because of the losses suffered both by the company itself and by small and medium-sized businesses. The government is dealing with this issue.
Wildberries is no ordinary retailer. It dominates more than 40% of Russia's online retail market and, together with Ozon, controls almost 70% of the sector. Often compared with Amazon, its influence inside Russia is arguably even greater. Annual turnover exceeds 4 trillion rubles, representing more than 10% of the country's domestic trade. The impact has been immediate. Russian social media is filled with desperate appeals from small and medium-sized business owners whose merchandise was destroyed inside the warehouses. Some reportedly lost everything. One entrepreneur is said to have taken his own life after inventory purchased with a 12 million ruble loan was reduced to ashes. Adding to the anger, Wildberries had already amended its terms of service earlier this month, removing compensation for losses caused by wartime circumstances, meaning affected sellers will receive nothing. At first glance, the warehouses appear to be civilian targets. Wildberries is best known for selling clothing, household goods, toys, and electronics. But Ukraine argues there is another side to the story. The marketplace openly sells dual-use equipment, including DJI drones, tactical gear, and drone payload release systems that can be adapted for military use. Kyiv says the platform has become part of the wider supply chain supporting Russia's expanding drone capabilities. Ukraine also points to a broader reality. Moreover, much of the military-related merchandise is hidden within seemingly civilian categories, such as auto parts or electronics. For example, one can openly purchase drone bomb release mechanisms or payload retention systems, equipment designed to carry and release explosives from drones. Wildberries sells them without restriction, complete with technical specifications. Since launching its full-scale invasion in 2022, Russia has repeatedly struck Ukrainian logistics centers, postal terminals, warehouses, supermarkets, shopping centers, railway infrastructure, and power facilities. Millions of tons of humanitarian supplies, medicines, food and commercial goods have been destroyed, while entire cities have been reduced to ruins. Kyiv says its strategy has now evolved. Rather than limiting long-range strikes to oil depots and military facilities, Ukraine is increasingly targeting the economic infrastructure that keeps Russia's wartime economy functioning. Wildberries is not only a retail giant, but also one of Russia's biggest taxpayers, generating hundreds of millions of dollars each year for the state budget. The company also plays a central role in Russia's parallel import network, helping sanctioned Western goods continue reaching Russian consumers through third countries despite international restrictions. Disrupting that network could make sanctions far more painful for ordinary Russians while increasing pressure on the Kremlin. As Ukraine expands its deep strike campaign, the battlefield is no longer confined to trenches and front lines. It is increasingly reaching the economic heart of Russia itself, where every warehouse destroyed carries consequences far beyond the flames.